The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Karen Arriviaga, and I am the Sales Development Representative here at Qualtrax. Thank you for joining us for this webinar. It's on the importance of ISO 17020 for medical examiners. We are truly thrilled to be joined today by our customer and our partner, ANAB, for this opportunity to give you more insight into the ISO 17020 standard. Throughout the conversations that we've had with our customers and our prospects, and even questions that we've had with ANAB, we found that there are a lot of questions from the medical examiner community regarding the purpose of 17020, the language differences, and really what to expect when moving forward with this accreditation. And so what we wanted to do was put together this educational opportunity to kind of help answer some of those questions and really give you some of the answers that we've been hoping that you guys will take. So as we go through the webinar today, what you will actually notice is that this is really kind of going to be in a question and answer format. So if at any time throughout the webinar, if you have additional questions or would like more clarification, we highly encourage you to let us know. And there's really two ways of doing that. You can either, one, put them in the questions area located in the GoToWebinar application. I've got a couple of different things pulled up, so hopefully I'll be really quick so we can answer those as we go. Or two, we can actually make this pretty interactive. We do have the ability to unmute you. So if you do have a question and you would like to talk to Dave, our presenter, directly and ask it to him about 17020, what we can actually do is you can raise your hand. And by raising your hand, you got to do that through the GoToWebinar application as well. It's going to be in the left side panel towards the top of the application for hand raising. And I will notice that, and then we can actually unmute you, and so you can ask your question directly. With that, you will need to either be on a phone, so we have a microphone, or on like a headset through your computer to be able to hear you. So keep that in mind if you want to ask a question. So that's my little spiel on how we're accepting questions today. But again, we highly recommend the more questions that you have, we are happy to answer those. But at this point, I would love to introduce you to Dave Grady. He's going to be actually doing the presentation and answering some of these questions that we have for you. Dave is a lead assessor for ANAB and is currently conducting training presentations on 17020 for ANAB. He's also retired Worcester, Massachusetts crime scene director, which is one of the first agencies to actually adopt 17020. So Dave, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you. And we're going to go to our next slide about ANAB.
Yes, well, good afternoon, everyone. As Karen says, I'm recently retired. I ran both a 17020 and a 17025 accreditations, one in the latent print unit, the 25, one in the crime scene unit, which was 17020. So I'm very familiar with both accreditation processes, and I've been doing a fairly large amount of workshops, and I do a lot of assessments in both programs. So I'm very familiar with both the processes as a customer and also as an assessor. In the ASQ, National Accreditation Board, we do provide accreditation to 17020 and 17025. It is a nonprofit, non-governmental organization that provides accreditation services to public and private sector organizations. We are owned jointly by ANSI, which is the American National Standards Institute, and ASQ, the American Society for Quality. And we state that we're dedicated to providing quality accreditations to the forensic community. We are the longest established provider of ISO accreditations in the United States, and we are the largest provider of forensic accreditations in the world.
Great. Next slide.
I'm sure the reason why most of you are here is because ANAB and the National Association of Medical Examiners has just recently formed an alliance whereby we will manage the name accreditation program as well as our current ISO programs 17020 and 25. Medical legal officers accredited by name or seek a name accreditation have the opportunity in the option to go with just name or also select 17025 or go with just 107025. ANAB does handle all the paperwork and the scheduling, but the name program is essentially still belongs to name. Name still maintains that program and is responsible for the criteria that is listed within that program. Also, I should mention the future assessments under either program will be by name inspectors. We refer to inspectors as assessors, but I realize that on the name program they were generally referred to as inspectors. We anticipate that will stay the same. Name will accredit their own bodies, and ANAB will manage the program. And name will also be the inspectors or assessors for the ISO program as well.
Great.
A little history on ISO. It is not an acronym. It actually is the Greek word for equal. It is an organization founded and maintained in the country of Switzerland. It was formed in 1947. And obviously its mission is the development of standards to facilitate exchange of goods and services. In particular, well, I should state that they have over 9,000 ISO standards. So 17020 is just one of very, very many. The 20 program is specifically the general criteria for the operation of various types of bodies. Perform an inspection. That could be building inspectors, product inspectors, crime scene investigators. There's a pretty wide range of occupations and professions that adopt the 17020 program.
Great. All right. Well, we've come up to our first set of questions specifically about name and ISO 17020. So the first question that I have for you, Dave, is will all name accrediting laboratories go to ISO 17020? And will that change name?
Currently, if the medical examiner's or coroner's office wishes to attain accreditation, they may opt for the name accreditation only. They may opt to go ISO, or they may opt to go both. The name program belongs to name. ANAB is responsible only to manage the scheduling and the documentation pertaining to the name program. It's up to name to decide if they wish to modify that particular standard. It's up to the customer to decide how much into the accreditation process they wish to go, or the direction they wish to go. If they want to go ISO, they want to go or stay with name, or they want to do a combination. Currently, that is totally up to the customer.
Great. And a lot of these questions, everybody, so you know, actually have come directly from prospects and customers we've talked to. And if you filled out the survey that was sent out after your registration, we got some of these great questions from there too. So thank you, everybody who did participate in that survey. Another one of those questions is number 2, is how does ISO 17020 compare to ISO 17025?
Well, ISO 17025, which is the general requirements for testing and calibration laboratories, this standard is applicable to those laboratories that derive their end product, I guess you'd say, by the use of analytical chemistry or sophisticated equipment. A great deal of expertise is also required but the major portion of the testing results is derived from their equipment. That is why 17025 is so heavy on method and equipment validations and measurement uncertainty. They have to ensure that the equipment they're relying upon for their answers is producing reliable data. 17020, on the other hand, relies mostly on professional judgment, which includes education, training, experience. That's not to say that they don't use sophisticated equipment. Most of them do, in fact. But the data they are most reliant upon is that is provided by the expertise of the inspector, not the equipment. It is less reliant on validations and measurements and more reliant on issues like training, experience, employee monitoring, impartiality. In other words, human issues.
Great. Well, thank you, Dave, for giving us a little history about ANAB and name and some of the parallels between that and ISO 17020. Now we're really going to get into some more detailed answers and questions regarding the actual standard and some of the best practices. So question number 3, what are the benefits of being ISO 17020? This was actually a pretty popular question that we've heard, is like, why should somebody consider becoming ISO 17020? And then are there financial benefits as well?
Well, personally, I think our customers are more confident of our results when we allow ourselves to be judged by an independent third party against a set of established criteria. I can't imagine a better set of criteria than one established by, well, representatives from 163 nations, all with the intention of having a quality assurance program. I know from past experience that it definitely helps when you're presenting your findings in the courtroom to be able to get up there and state, yeah, I'm from an accredited body, and I'm from an agency that is internationally accredited. Many of you are familiar with the NES report that came out in 2009, and they made a number of recommendations. And I was always somewhat astounded by the amount of those recommendations that would be met simply by just being accredited. With international accreditation, you wiped out at least half that list. I can also tell you that I assess a lot of places, and people are genuinely proud when they're able to state that they've achieved international accreditation. I've yet to go to a place and say at the end of the day that it wasn't worth it. Most of them are very, very proud to have achieved that. And I would say in closing to that is it definitely makes you better. I don't know of any agency that wouldn't state that they're doing things better once they're accredited.
Wonderful.
As far as financial advantages, it does make you more a better candidate for federal grant money. In fact, there's a lot of talk about making ISO accreditation a beginning point to even apply for grant money. The 2009 NES report, for example, suggested making grant money as a means by which to enforce accreditation. So at one time, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the cover dog grants. At one time, that was only given to accredited agencies. They stopped doing that, but there's a lot of talk about them starting that up again. So I think as far as applying for grants goes, it certainly makes you a better candidate.
Great, thank you. All right, and then what does it take to become 17020? Ideas like how much work is involved, what are the major hurdles or expenses in becoming ISO accredited? It's a big one.
Yeah, it does. It does require a commitment of some time and some effort. Policies and procedures do have to be made, and they have to be controlled. Programs for training, continuing education, competency testing, proficiency testing, those things have to be established. Someone has to be designated as the quality manager. And at least one person has to be designated as a technical manager. There can be more than one. As far as how much work is involved, it's going to depend on how well the agency already has in place policies and procedures. If they have a good set of policies and procedures already written, then they're well on the way already. If not, then they certainly have some writing to do first. I would say the first major hurdle is a commitment from the management and then the staff. Both those portions of the agency have to buy into this. Once you have that commitment, then there has to be an understanding that someone or someones, I should say, have to be able to dedicate some time and effort to creating the necessary documentation. That's sort of like my mind, the biggest hurdle. I see another part of that question is, are there financial benefits major hurdles and expenses? I don't necessarily feel the financial expenses are great, but I'm not the best person to answer that. We do have a great sales staff at ANAB that will create personalized estimates for people upon request specific to their agency. They can even do a quote for the first 3 or 4 years if that's desired. And if you so wish, you can certainly contact our sales staff to get that information.
Great, great. And so also, and this is a question that came in, but I unfortunately forgot to put it on my PowerPoint. You know, what happens when you actually are going through this process to be accredited to 17020, and you receive a nonconformity, or during your first assessment, you happen to fail? You know, what does that process actually look like? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, we don't really, well, first of all, don't ever expect to be assessed for us not to have any findings. That's almost, that's pretty rare. It's very rare, in fact, that an agency, especially upon an initial assessment, that an assessor would come in and not have any findings. The norm is actually for an assessor to come in and have any number of findings. The customer or the agency is given ample time to make corrective actions. Quite frankly, this is a good opportunity for them to use their corrective action process that they've written up in their quality manual. If for any reason they cannot finish within, you're given 30 days, by the way, from the time of the closing of the assessment to have your corrective actions. If by day 20 you can't meet that deadline, you simply have to call the assessor, and they'll generally grant additional time. We expect agencies to have nonconformities. I find it almost the norm to go to an agency that's been accredited for 10 years and still find nonconformities. Keep in mind, when the assessor's there, he's only looking at a very small picture in time of what's being done, and it's not also unusual for different assessors to go and concentrate in different areas. So we expect to have nonconformities. We don't see that as a failure at all.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. All right, question 5. What are some of the important aspects of 17020, and how do you prove compliance?
Well, certainly one important aspect is good documentation. As I'm sure all of you have heard, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. Sometimes I know ANAB likes to use the phrase the 3 Ps, meaning policy, proof, policy, procedure, and proof. And of course, proof is good documentation, and then implementing those, what you've written down. I'd say at least half the assessment is done before the assessor gets on site, and that's when the document review is conducted. Once he's on site, his job is mostly to ascertain if what is actually documented is actually taking place, and if the employees understand what is expected of them. But yeah, I'd say a huge aspect of accreditation has to do with documentation. That's why it's so important to get an early start on getting those documents in place.
Great. All right, question 6. What are some of the top nonconformances or red flags that you see when actually going through the assessing process for people that are going through 17020?
Well, that tends to vary a little bit year to year. There are some nonconformities that we see that are pretty consistent. One thing I see rather frequently is agencies that confuse policy for a procedure. A lot of times when I'm doing a document review, I'll see a policy statement where I expect to see a procedure. The standard is actually asking for a procedure. And of course, the procedure requires detailed instructions. This year, or more recently, I should say, I'm seeing a lot of nonconformities that center around traceability and especially external documents. That's something that I think as assessors we have noticed in the whole. We've all noticed that a lot of agencies haven't been doing probably the best job at controlling those documents that don't necessarily belong to themselves. For example, a lot of agencies they'll use instructional or equipment manufacturers' instructions rather than write a detailed set of procedures, which is all well and good. You're able to do that. But when you do that, that instructional manual now becomes a controlled document. It has to be treated as other controlled documents are. That's probably the thing I've seen most recently. Yeah, again, I would say probably almost all assessors will say that in the last 10 years or whatever, the most consistent one is just probably the confusion arising between what is actually a policy that they're asking for and what is actually a procedure.
Interesting. Well, great. Thank you for that. All right, and we're getting close towards the end, and so I do see we have a couple of questions coming in. So thank you for those, and continue them because we'll be happy to answer those here towards the end as well. Question 7: how specifically can ANAB help different medical examiner offices? And what I'll do is go ahead and go to the next slide.
Okay, good. Yeah, we have been pretty regularly offering workshops, general population or general forensic science workshops, as well as workshops specifically for name. As you can see from that slide, if other people are seeing that, we do have a couple others that are scheduled at this particular time. Again, we have a very good sales staff that will give you quotes if you so desire, and that can be for an initial assessment or the initial plus however years you wish to get a quote for. Some agencies ask for a quote for a whole accreditation cycle, which is 4 years. So we're able to do that, and certainly if you have questions, you can reach out to me anytime. I answer an awful lot of questions for the 17020 program, and I'm used to doing that, so I'm very available.
Great. And then here's the slide about if you're interested in becoming 17020 accredited.
Yeah,
Dave, go ahead.
You can call Roger Muse at ANAB. He's our Vice President in charge of sales, and his contact information is there. As I said, you could also contact myself if you have questions pertaining to the actual ISO standard, and I'm sure you have people at NAME that could answer questions as they pertain to the name requirements.
Wonderful. All right, and now it's my turn. So how can Qualtrax actually help you? So just a little bit about Qualtrax, and I think based on the number of the attendees that are on here, a lot of you are a little familiar with what we actually do. We are a compliance management software company. We take a real importance in our technology/team approach by offering an electronic quality management system paired with our team commitment to our customers and their industries to make sure we're helping simplify their heavy compliance burdens. A little bit about the company itself. We were founded in 1993. We are actually ISO 9001 accredited ourselves. In fact, that's how Qualtrax came about. We had to be audited. We had somebody on our quality management team that decided to create software to help with that auditing process. Our auditor came in and said, hey, you should actually share this software with other companies. And that's ultimately how we got started over 25 years ago. We are headquartered in Blacksburg, Virginia. Something that we're really proud of is our 97% customer retention rate. One of those customers actually happens to be ANAB, and so one of the questions that has come in is a little bit about the accreditation that ANAB goes through. ANAB uses Qualtrax for their own ISO 17011 accreditation since they are an accrediting body. There are people within ANAB that actually use Qualtrax too. Let's talk a little bit about the product and how it actually can help you. So within Qualtrax, there are really four main functionalities that can be used to help manage nonconformities and ultimately preparing you for a successful audit and manageable workload when actually going towards 17020 or 17020. So many numbers. As you listen to Dave talk, he talked about the 3 Ps. You can even say that a big part of being accredited is making sure that you are doing what you're saying that you're doing. And so Qualtrax has specifically been designed to help with this. We make audit preparation easier and significantly reduce preparation time. If you happen to have a limited staff or a small quality team that feels overwhelmed, having a solution like Qualtrax can actually do some of the heavy lifting and some of that workload. And so you guys, the quality teams, can get back to what they're actually supposed to be doing and making sure that the medical examiner's offices are running the way that they're supposed to. Let our software actually do all that heavy lifting. What does that lifting look like? What are the elements of Qualtrax? First, document management. And you heard Dave mention document management and the importance of making sure that your documents are being tracked, are being approved, or being edited. Number one, we're going to keep all of your documents in one place. You're going to find them easily. They're going to be able to be searched. You're always going to have the most up-to-date document available for reference. There's no risk of getting nonconformities because somebody's not going to be able to actually access an out-of-date document. Also, process management, or what we like to call workflows. This is ultimately an engine that will allow you to automate any process within your organization. When you're talking about ISO 17020 or really any ISO standard, the first one that really comes to mind, especially for us and our customers, are corrective actions. That's usually the first type of workflow that you'll probably put into your system for Qualtrax. Being able to track the corrective action process through completion is important. Your auditors are going to ask about that, and so we can actually automate that process to make sure that each CAPA goes through the exact same process over and over and over again. Next is testing and training. Testing management and training will really allow you to track your employees' effectiveness and training completion. Something that's really important, even if it comes down to tracking, trainings that doctors have to go through on a year-to-year basis, or if it's simply just tracking and testing if somebody in your organization read and understood a document. There's a really big variety of different ways that you can use the testing and training when accrediting to 17020. Now, the good thing about all of these features is that they're all reportable. They're all going to be visible to you. We have companies that use Qualtrax that will actually sit there with their auditors with Qualtrax open. The auditor will ask them a question, or the assessor will ask them a question. They will find the answer in Qualtrax and then show them the screen and show them, well, this is how we track this and this is our process. So this is really a great way to be organized and headed when you are going towards that accreditation to make sure that you are ready. Now, our plan today was not to necessarily show you a Qualtrax demonstration, but we do want to give you the opportunity to really ask some more detailed questions. We did receive some detailed questions through that survey about Qualtrax. And so what we have arranged is actually an opportunity next Tuesday, May 2nd, at the same time as this one, to actually see a specific medical examiner accreditation demonstration with one of our top customer relationship managers. She actually used to be in charge of our training team, and so she can actually give you a very much more detailed presentation than you would see during our typical webinars. So if you really want to dig down into Qualtrax and get some, detailed information about how our system actually works, I highly recommend that you join this session. What I'll do is actually share the link to this session in the chat box towards the end, and I'll show you where you can actually register for this on our website as well, if you would like to. All right, and that brings us towards the end, and so I'm going to open it up for some more questions. If you have any more questions beyond this and you still want to reach out to us, Dave Grady, you can reach him. His email's listed there, and also you can reach out to our sales department, and our information is here. You can also find it on our website, and we're happy to help you. If you have any feedback about this webinar, any suggestions, more educational opportunities that you feel that we could bring to you to help with these transitions as they come up, please let us know. We're always looking for new topics. All right, Dave, so I've got a question here from Sean.
Okay.
All right, and it says, if our agency does not have a laboratory, trace crime scene, or specific specialty like anthro, is ISO 17020 even applicable?
Yes, it is the program that is recommended for medical examiners specifically. I'm sure you're aware that there are some anthro units that also have gone 2.0. I know Harris County has, and I know there's another one, I think it's in the works right now. Crime scene units, we are strongly recommended that they go 2.0. But yeah, without those, and obviously if you had a toxicology program, those will go to 5 because they use more analytical equipment. But for medical examiners specifically, we are recommended 17020.
So as a follow-up question to that, and this is coming from me, do you find that, let's say medical examiner offices that are also tied with toxicology laboratories, if you find that one of them is, like, say if the toxicology is already 17025, do you see that it's easier for the medical examiner to also kind of jump on and become 17020, or does it just depend?
Well, it depends. A lot of these agencies that have 17025 already for, say, toxicology or a DNA lab, they have dedicated quality assurance personnel. If that's the case, then they're probably already familiar with 17020. They're certainly familiar with running an accreditation program. That can be a big benefit. And it's not a huge deal to manage both. If you're managing one, I did it. Baltimore Police Department does it. Several agencies down in Mexico are doing that. Now, and I should mention the country of Mexico, is their medical examiners offices are also going on 7020, and they're moving at a pretty good pace towards this. So, it's a very doable program. It definitely is the most applicable set of standards for those that are using professional judgment. I think it's going to fit the medical examiner community very well.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Here's another question about trying to find that webinar that we're going to be offering. I'm actually going to escape my presentation for a little bit and go to our website just so you can see what we're actually talking about. This is the Qualtrax website. If you do want to sign up for that webinar I was talking about, if you come here to events and webinars, this is where we'll have all of our webinars listed. A lot of times we communicate through email letting you know when something comes up. But if you ever want to see you know, what we're hosting next, we really try to do industry-specific type events. So we've done medical examiner overviews in the past. We've done like the top 3 issues that medical examiners could actually face, and what that looks like between NAME and 17020. But this is the new one that's coming up next week if you would like to join. So you just go to qualtrax.com, go to our events page, and you can sign up for it right here. On this same page, you can actually see recorded versions of webinars. And so you'll eventually be able to see the recorded version of this webinar here. Another one that we did for medical examiners was 3 best practices for managing NAME and ISO 17020 accreditation, specifically with a QMS like Qualtrax. And so that's a really nice intro. It's quick, 30 minutes. We really try to pinpoint specifics in the product that can actually help you. All right, great questions. Any other questions out there? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, and I don't see any else coming in at this time. Again, if you have anything after the fact or after we close this webinar, please just let us know. We're happy to answer them. Even if you want to reach out to us, we'll reach out to Dave. We will do that as well. We really hope that you have gotten some value out of this webinar today and been able to really see some of the trends and how people are moving to 17020, and we hope that you consider moving to that accreditation soon. Again, thank you for joining, and I hope to see you on the webinar next Tuesday. Dave, again, thank you so very much to you and everybody at ANAB for joining us today. It was truly great to have you on here answering all of these questions. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody, and I hope you have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.